guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another track guide, another episode in the ultimate series of track guides in fact. And today, this week, we're sticking with GT4 and this time we're in the Audi R8, which is not a really common GT4 car, but one that actually I've really grown to like because I've been driving it a little bit more recently, apart from the McLaren I'm doing in the series. And today we're at Hungary, we're at the Hungaroring obviously, and actually it's a super technical track. It's one of my favourite tracks on the game, and in fact in the world, and I'm really excited to be doing this track guide. So if you do want more of this content, if you like the content, then obviously subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get a notification each time that I upload a track guide or do a race weekend or an endurance race, and I'm looking to do more and more of those over the coming weeks and months. So let's dive into the track guide. As I said, we're in the Audi GT4 car, and relatively difficult last corner, but we get a decent run onto the home straight. We're going to be doing looking for the first braking point over on the left hand side of the track here, and a lot of the time people think it's this first braking marker on the left hand side. I sort of highlighted it there in red, but actually it's just before that. It's where the tarmac goes dark, and that's where you want to be braking, or if not a tiny bit before, especially if you're in fast conditions rather than optimum as we are here. Braking hard into the first corner, taking a slightly later apex than you probably would normally. Wait for the front end to bite, and then you can see I'm on the power so early. As soon as you see that sort of dark GT sign right in your vision, sort of you're not looking to the right hand side of the track, then you're on the power, full power. You can run all the way over the curb on the left hand side without getting penalty. That really straightens up your run down this short straight. Again, looking for the curb at the start of the curb as a braking point. It's just before, I think, in this Audi, the braking point. In some cars, it's going to be just after, just a little bit more before. But using that beginning of the curb as a reference point for your braking. It's a little bit of an awkward corner, this. There are a couple of different ways to take it, sort of wide in and try and cut back on the exit to try and get a better run, or I like to keep it quite tight. There's also a sort of, I guess, a tighter sort of double apex line there, getting a nice smooth run onto this right hander, which it is technically a corner. It's one of the 14 corners. In some of the GT4 cars it's quite difficult. When I was racing here in my McLaren the other night in the ACR Pro League, it's really difficult to actually time this corner well, but it's quite easy in this Audi. A little bit bumpy on the inside if you hit that curb, so not ideal to do that, but and that's the first sector. So let's look at it again from above. Looking for that dark patch of tarmac just on the outside of the track. They're taking a later apex, and think down into third gear in this Audi. I know the McLaren's second gear through here though, and all the way over the curb on the left hand side as you come back over to the right hand side of the track, looking for the beginning of the curb. Now braking, you can see this sort of inside double apex. I stay quite tight, I don't go as wide as the dark tarmac there. A lot of people do, but I really don't see the benefits. This mini straight there just before the right hander there is so short, and it just isn't worth it. So let's look at that again in car. So we're going to be braking down to third gear. We're going to be just before the sign on the left hand side of the track. We're going to be braking really hard to start with, and as we start to turn in, we're going to start to come off the brakes nice and gently, about half power, and as soon as you see that sign you'll flat, open up the steering, get a good run. This is such a crucial little straight as well, because it opens you up to people going around the inside or outside of you on this sort of awkward left hand, or getting the run on you down the next little straight. Stay on that inside, get on the power as early as you can. Really try and avoid the bumps too much on the inside, unlike what I did, and that's the first sector nice and clean. So come up to this quick left-hander here. Again, you're looking for the right-hand curb here, and actually you can straddle that curb a little. Well, not straddle, you can get your right-hand tyre on the curb slightly to increase the amount of turning potential you have, and you'll come to a point here where you need to make a decision whether you go get your left-hand tyre on the inside of the curb here, or just touching the curb, because somewhere in the middle and you're going to get thrown off. So you need to make a decision whether you're all the way over the curb, or if you're just going to take a little bit of it. No right or wrong answer, but really there's not a huge straight to compromise you afterwards. Here you're looking to stay on the inside as much as you can. By this point the brakes are getting a bit hot as we've used them a lot during the lap, but you need to stay on the inside, but crucially, do not go on the curb on, you know, the concrete curb on the inside here, because the back end of the car will step out and you'll lose momentum all the way down this little mini straight here coming up to the chicane. You can run all the way wide on that curb on the left hand side, brake at the beginning of the curb. Now it's so crucial here on this, especially in GT4. You can't really do this in GT3, but you need to straddle this orange highlighted sausage curb here on both the first half and the second half of this chicane, and you effectively straight line the chicane. And if you get it right, you don't get a penalty. You can carry a good 10 miles an hour quicker through there than if you take it the conventional way. So all the way over, or not at all on that curb, keeping it just in fourth gear, braking nice and early, getting a nice inside line on the power way earlier than you think you can. You can go all the way over that curb on the left hand side, braking at the start of the curb. You can see how straight I take that chicane by straddling those sausage curbs. It's really crucial to do that. So let's look at that again. If you do go on the outside of this curb, it's absolutely fine. You actually get a slightly quicker run into this right-hander, which I don't find beneficial, but some people do. On the power, nice and early, so you're nowhere near the apex there. It's way before the apex, and you do have a lot of room on the outside to play with. Beginning of the curve, down into the third gear, straddle, think always straddling those sausage curbs. You can use the concrete curbing on the outside, and then we're into this super technical sort of third quarter of the track, if you like. So it's a series of really fast chicanes, ever increasing in speed, and it's crucial. I take a lot of curb on the inside of the first one. This one you can get on the power nice and early. You can see we're absolutely nowhere near the apex. We're so far before it, but we're on that sort of half, 60% throttle, trying to get the back of the car around. And actually there's a lot of room to play with on the outside of this one, because you've got time to pull it over to the right hand side of the track before this flat left-hander and into a really awkward braking point for this right-hander. It's going to be different in every car. The McLaren really doesn't have a good front end, but this Audi does, so we can brake nice and late, just trail the brake a little bit, and then back on the power as soon as we get near that inside curb, running all the way out. Just remember to keep your right-hand tyre on the curb on the outside of that left-hander. So lots of curb on the inside. Early on the power on this right-hand one, you've got a lot of room to bring the car over to the right-hand side of the track. This one's flat. Take some curb if you're nervous about the car getting the nose in. As soon as you feel the nose bite on the right-hander, you'll full throttle all the way down this next straight into the final couple of corners. So thinking about getting nice and early on the power through these, just waiting for the front end to bite, and then just gently on the power. You do need to go up to max power during these. Flat. If you take the inside curve here, the back end will step out a little bit. As you see, it's actually beneficial to get the front of the car in, ready to turn into the right-hander, and obviously lots of room on the outside there. Into the final sector, beginning of the curve, there is a universal braking point. I'm not going to bother stopping. You can take more curb than you need to on the inside of this right-hander there, and actually it's a really good way of getting the back end of the car round if you've got an understeery car. We don't need to in this Audi, but what we do need to do is make sure we're opening up the steering. As you see, I'm on top 2/3 throttle here, nice and open on the outside. You've got a lot of room on this sort of AstroTurf here. As long as your right-hand tyre is still on the curb, it really opens up your exit. Underneath the bridge, I use this as a braking marker. Don't use the shadow, as obviously it's going to be changing a lot of the time. We put a little bit of a red marker there because we're going to be braking just after the bridge, and there's a couple of different lines you can take through this long left hand of the penultimate corner. I like to stay nice and tight, and as soon as you're on this point, you're on the power, you're starting to think about how you're going to straighten up the steering, because you're aiming for just after that bridge on the left hand side, sort of looking through the window there, because you need to be on full power. There's a lot of room on the outside to use the pit lane and even the curb and Astro there, because you've got time to pull over to the left hand side of the track. You see the dark tarmac in front of us, which is going to be our braking point just after the start of that dark tarmac. The two different lines again around the last corner. You can either go in quite wide and try and get a better exit, but I actually find on this corner, if you dive into it a bit more, almost aim for that comb on the inside, change down a gear to get the nose in, and then change back up in this Audi to get a nice smooth exit. You get a better run into the start finish straight, and we cross the line in a 1:51.6, which is pretty respectable. So let's look at that final sector. You can use a lot of curb, remember, on this. Straighten the exit as much as you can. There's a lot of Astro to use on the outside. After the bridge, or just under the bridge, is the braking point. Nice and early on the power, but nice and smooth. Getting as straight as you can. Lots of time to bring the car over to the left hand side, and I like to dive into this final corner. Similar to the corner in the first section where I do a sort of a tight double apex. A lot of people do a really proper double apex there, but it really doesn't benefit them too much, I've found, in the last couple of weeks, which is really good news. It's easier to do a sort of constant radius corner. So let's look at the lap as a whole, and obviously don't forget to subscribe if you've enjoyed the video so far, and give it a thumbs up as well, share it with your friends. Braking at the curb into this awkward sort of double apex left-hander, slightly wide on the apex, and then bring it back in using the back end of the car on the power to rotate round. Try not to get too much on the curb on the inside, but do if you're a little bit nervous about running out wide. Looking for the curb on the right-hand side now, turning our attention to whether we're going to go all the way on the inside like we do here, or if we take a little bit less curve, which will give us more speed into this right-hander. Nice and early on the power, keeping that steering nice and constant, opening up nicely. You can go over that curve on the left-hand side. Now thinking about those sausage curves, how do we straddle them? Turn in nice and early, straighten that apex up, double apex up. Now into the fast chicane series. Now a lot of curve on the inside. Remember, we've got room on the outside of this right-hander to open up the steering, get the throttle on nice and early, flat through this left-hander into fifth gear, braking earlier than you think you probably do. Get the nose in as soon as it's bitten, as soon as the front end's in, then floor it. Absolutely give it all the beans down this right hand, through this right-hander and down the straight, using the curb as a braking marker. Nice and smooth on the exit of that one. You've got a short straight into the final corner. Such a technical corner this, but as soon as you feel like the front's going to get some grip and the rear's not going to slide, then put the power down. Lots of room to bring the car over to the left-hand side, diving slightly into this final right-hander. And guys, that is track guide, the ultimate track guide of the Hungaroring in an Audi GT4 car. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you know, there's going to be more and more of these coming over the coming weeks. So do hit the subscribe button, share with your friends on Twitter and all that sort of thing, and give it a go. Let me know how you get on in the comments. Most importantly, I want to know how you guys have improved in this car, and what tips you found quite useful on what areas of the video. So till next time, guys, see you later.